5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. We have Facebook Live, I hope. Thanks for having me today, Facebook Live, and welcome to stalkers of the New York Times opinion page and fans of the One campaign. I'd be very excited to hear your comments and your questions, if you care to throw them at me. I'm here in the Capitol in DC, where I've been in Congress, interrogated by United States senators. She treated me quite well, shockingly. This morning, the New York Times published a piece I wrote about the refugee crisis. Same pages that sport Nick Kristof's columns, which makes me very happy because Nick Kristof is a hero of mine. Anyway, I'm writing because I've spent the last 2 weeks traveling on this refugee crisis story for the Times, and I've been to the Somali border with Kenya, I've been to the Syrian border of Turkey, and the Syrian border with Jordan, and I've seen some not pleasant stuff, some unimaginable suffering, which I think if we don't answer it and respond to it might have the effect of undoing all the good work that's been accomplished in the fight against extreme poverty that campaigns like One are involved in, and others like us, Global Citizen, whomever, you're part of Oxfam, Save the Children. So a lot of great work has been done, and I don't want to see it undone. So there are some ideas. I'd like to talk you through it. So if you want to start with some of the questions, Roxy, I'm here.
Sure. First up, we've got a question from Sherry Lawrence. She says, after testifying on Capitol Hill today, how much effort do you believe it will take to convince our Congress that these solutions are the ones that should be explored? The current political climate uses the rising scare tactics and not in my backyard philosophy about foreign refugees, and it's an enormous mountain to overcome.
I'm not saying the mountain is not enormous. What we do at the One campaign is we try to describe Everest and then climate, and the way we do it is we work with both sides of the aisle. So often it's political division that stops these great things from happening. I remember doing this for debt cancellation, Drop the Debt, which was a situation where the poorest countries in the world owed the richest countries fortunes, and were being held over a barrel for it. And by working together across the aisle, we managed to cancel those debts. And then we had another absurd idea that we campaigned on, which was the idea that where you live shouldn't decide whether you live, with regards to the AIDS emergency, trying to get universal access to antiretroviral drugs, which are AIDS drugs, trying to get them to the rural poor in Africa sounded like absolutely impossible. But our angle was, you can get Coca-Cola there, you can get in any shebeen, you can get Guinness there, and by again working together, campaigning, unexpected people who don't usually work or march together, we got there. And I think it's nearly 10 million people that the United States and the global community, it's over 10 million, who owe their lives to, in a way, those campaigners. Which is, so if you're out there, that's an amazing thing. It often really hits me, actually, is the idea that we could save somebody's life just by getting off our arse and writing to a congressman or getting out to a street or signing up for the One campaign. It's pretty actually humbling, and I don't do humble.
On that note, we've got a question from Nick Good from Pennsylvania, who says, what provides hope to the refugees who have witnessed this reality that they may never return to their home country? What gives them hope that someday they may return?
Hope. I was so surprised, but I came away hopeful from these camps. And I saw some terrible stuff. I was in Dadaab on the Somali border, and it's the largest refugee camp on earth, I think. And some people have been there for 25 years. In fact, a third of the camp had been born there. So how did I come away there with hope? Because I just feel that the international community is now starting to pay attention, and I think we can make some real changes that will affect them. The people who look after the refugee crisis at the UN, it's called the UNHCR. They go around with their, every year having to beg for money. They don't know how much they're going to get every year. Their annual payments, it's outrageous actually. The same for the UN food program. It's absolutely outrageous. They've only 9% of their funding for 2016 guaranteed now. So how do you plan, all that kind of stuff. But I think we're going to change that. There's, again, if you all want to, if people on Facebook now want to, and they really get, incensed about it, it can change. Another thing about hope, maybe this is a long-winded answer to a short question, but I remember in, I think it was Zaatari in Jordan. Jordan does an amazing job for their refugee populations. In fact, I think it might be a quarter of the entire population of Jordan are refugees. Can you imagine that? Just think of where you live and just imagine 1/4. So anyways, in this camp of Syrians, and Syrians are really industrious, they're just amazing people. And Steve Jobs was the son of a Syrian migrant, worth remembering. He was pretty industrious. But I was there, they were telling me a story that the good people of the Netherlands were going to donate 600 bicycles to the camp. Before the bicycles had arrived, they had set up a bicycle repair shop. And the moment the bicycles arrived, there was a pizza delivery service announced before they had pizza. So the Syrians really gave me hope. Incredible people. But think of this, they're teachers, they're nurses, and you see them, and you've seen these pictures climbing onto rafts, and they're like just, it's just like, they're like, it's like they're like tin cans. They're just strapping these children to them, and they know they're taking a serious risk. These are not stupid people. And rather than think, why would they do that? That's so irresponsible. Just remember where they're running from. Have you seen pictures of Aleppo or Homs? At the U2 show, every night we used to play quite an obscure song from our second album called October. Piano piece, beautiful edge piece. And we used to play the footage of the city of Homs in Syria. There is no city. There is no city. It is rubble. There are people living in rubble. And then I suppose our overall argument is just, don't we want these people to be our friends at a time when there's all this violent extremism around? Don't we want to make friends? It's kind of mad that we're not reaching out to these people.
That brings us actually to a great question from Amy, who wants to know, what are our strategies or your strategies for bringing together people who don't agree politically, which is something we've lived with for a long time?
That's what we do. That's what the One campaign is about, is bringing together people who don't normally agree. You only need one thing to agree on, and you can do good work. And I'm very proud of our membership. It's so unusual. You have priests and punk rockers and soccer moms and NASCAR drivers and Hollywood people and Heartland people. We're a mixed up bunch of kids. That's what we like it in the One campaign. That's how we're going to do this. And think about it, sometimes it's stepping back, from your politics. It allows you to move your politics forward. What do I mean by that? Stepping back from your sort of stated position, you know, your stated ethos, your kind of what's the word I'm looking for?
Ideology.
Ideology. Thank you, Rosie. But you know that just move. Let's move around each other. Be a little more liquid sometimes, especially when serving others. And that's when we really find out who we are when serving others.
Well, that sort of brings me on to Anna Chili, who wants to hear a bit of your perspective on this. So she says you've been a humanitarian for the past 25 years, not to, you know, name years. And she says, what's changed since then? How have you changed? What advice would you actually give to your younger self if you could go back?
Anna? Hi, Anna. I would say to my younger self, this is a question that was asked me. I went to Anton Corbin's world class, one of the greatest photographers on earth. He's done a lot of work for U2, and I went to a museum show of his work, and there was loads of pictures of myself in the one room. It's a bit weird, and there was a picture of me, age 21, in a helicopter at a U2 video, with my head like that, and I'm just about to take off, you know, and and this journalist asked me, you know, what would you say to that person? And that's what I would say to you, Anna, which is, you're right. Don't second guess yourself. You're right. As you get older, you can be talked down from your idealism. I'm not going to be. In fact, I would say the last 10 years has proved my youthful idealism to have been pragmatism, is the truth. When you think of what we've done, AIDS, fighting the AIDS emergency, as we were talking about, 10 million people on drugs. When you think about having maternal health issues and child mortality, I mean, and there's so many advances we've made in the fight against extreme poverty. It'd be very hard for me to be cynical, and but if people are slagging you off or putting you down because they think you're a dreamer, I would say you're wide awake.
Great. So to today, I know that one thing that we're really excited about is the level of activism on the African continent. And Ogbialu asked the question, there's a gender equity...
Where's Bialu from?
She's actually in Dublin, Ireland now, but she is of Nigerian heritage. And she says, the gender equality bill was just rejected in Nigeria. Do you think there is more to be done to persuade the leaders in Nigeria to sign up to this bill?
Oh yes, well one are working on that, and I'm pretty familiar with that, and I think progress will be made on that. Gender equality is at the center of all of any movement that holds fairness and freedom and justice as its core values. By the way, I had an amazing time in Nigeria, in Lagos. I was there working on Poverty is Sexist, and if people don't know about the Poverty is Sexist campaign, I think it's just the greatest campaign ever, and we've had if you go on one.org, you'll see the amount of people who've signed up doing strengthies. I think I did the wrong way around there, and it's just women just saying they will not have it anymore. They will not take the bad deal. And we're actually, wherever you go in Hollywood, Jennifer Lawrence has been speaking about how actors are paid, and then women, and then we were talking to Bollywood actors who were involved in the Poverty is Sexist campaign, are equally as excited. Women have this incredible thing, bond. I think you have more than men. Men are we're a bit weird about, not the band, but other men. Women, there's a great sense of solidarity, and Poverty is Sexist is a very important part now my life as a man, as I try to kind of man up to the challenge of that campaign. Another thing about Nigeria, and it's great that you're in Dublin, but Lagos, I mean, Lagos makes New York look like it's asleep. I mean, it is like on some kind of, you know, it's on amphetamines, you know.
So just maybe pivoting back to the issues that you came to Washington to talk about, we've actually got one from a European person, Daniela from Rome in Italy. What do you think about the policies of the European Community member states on refugees?
What's her name again?
Daniela.
Daniela. I've been saying that Europe is a thought that needs to become a feeling. That Europe is a cold concept that is taught in schools, but we don't feel it like we should. I would argue that the refugee crisis affords us a chance to tell the world what it is to be a European. One of my favorite Europeans at the moment is Chancellor Merkel and the German people, because of the way they have shown hospitality to refugees way beyond anybody else in Europe. And I think we should give big props out to that. But I think all of us need to do more. Personally, I need to do more. I know my family feels that, my wife, my kids. This is, I mean, this is kind of an American word, but, you know, neighborliness. It's a great word. You know, these are our neighbors, and their house is on fire. And if your neighbor's house is on fire, you should be available to try and put it out, because if you don't, your house might catch fire. I mean, that's not the most altruistic reasons, but if that's what it takes to get you going, take it. The other answer is just neighborliness. Of course, we turn up with a bucket of water if our next door neighbor's house is on fire. That's who we are. We're Europeans. We have values.
Great. We got a couple of last questions. One is here from Danny, and bear with me, this has just come through. Time and again, the US has been faced with the choice to receive or reject refugees during international conflicts. Time and again, public opinion has vociferously asked for a nationalistic, isolationist focus. What are your specific suggestions for turning public opinion? How do we overcome the what about me in favor of the what about all of us?
It's a good question. I don't want to minimize security concerns. People feel anxious at the moment. People in rock and roll bands are getting attacked at their shows. Their audiences are getting murdered and mowed down in football games and restaurants. We are all right to be vigilant and watchful. But I have to tell you about refugees coming into the United States, which I think is the question. The United States has a very good record recently of taking in refugees, and in fact it's a very, very thorough vetting system. There's 13 agencies, government agencies involved. I think it takes 18 months. It's actually one of the most difficult ways to get into the United States. I think the most difficult way to get into the United States is as a refugee. So don't do yourself down. You're Americans, like, you're good at this. And you're a country made up of refugees. You know, Madeleine Albright, you know, is the, you know, your Secretary of State, refugee. There's loads of the best people in your country as a refugee. And you think about these countries that have come out of conflict and a deep refugee crisis, and they've taken in investment and aid. People are always saying, well, name me a country that's done well out of that. There's lots. I could say Ireland in a funny way, but I say South Korea. And think about that the head of the UN, and the head of the World Bank come out of a refugee crisis. They were displaced persons, internally displaced, but they're displaced persons. Isn't that amazing thought? And so I just wander off there. I might have just
no, so I think you've covered that. The last question really is the question that we've probably been asked the most, which is, what can I do as an individual to help in this situation? We all know, obviously people can take action at one.org, but I think what might be important here is your experience in terms of us being able to change things over time, difficult things. We have to graft, but we can get this stuff done. So maybe you could reflect on that as part of what can people watching right now do to get the job done.
Join the One campaign. That's one thing, but I mean, it doesn't have to be us. I would say, just get involved. It's a great feeling, by the way, to have some political muscle, to be able to throw a punch for someone who can't, to fight for their dignity, and that's what we do at the One campaign. And I think it's a great thing to get up in the morning and have a communication from some organization that tells you what's going on in the world. So yeah, I think you do well on your own. You do better when you're part of a community. And it's social movements that change the world. It's not individuals. It's not rock and roll stars. Can't even believe I said the word rock and roll stars. I don't feel like one. I think I'm getting the "you gotta go" thing.
The strength in numbers, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have to look over a longer period of time with the AIDS crisis. When we look back to the start of that work, it looked very black indeed, and the progress that was made is extraordinary, but you can't always see it right in front of you.
That's right. That's right, having long-term thinking in 10 years and 20 years, to be able to say, I worked, I served others. I discovered who I was in the service of others. We always will. I'm a singer, and singers are narcissists for a living. You know what I mean? We ponder our own navels for a living. And I was rescued from such solipsism by my work in the One campaign. I feel so blessed to have been taken out of myself, because when you're in yourself, it's a route to depression. It's a route to nowhere. We discover ourselves in our service to others. I'm sure of that. That sounds a bit it sounds a little corny, but I think I might believe it, so that's okay then. So thanks. Listen, I'm going to go before I say anything more corny. I just want to thank the New York Times and Facebook for getting together on this, and hope to do more of these, because it's kind of fun. You can just be in a room and have a cup of coffee, and if you're lucky, you have Roxy sitting across from you.
Thanks. Thank you very much for your time and for taking the questions. Thanks to the New York Times, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you. One.